Howdy everyone, it's Nognoth here to give you a tutorial on how to use the new KDM table, the scripted V2. Hopefully this is the last time I record this. I know you guys have been patient. Sorry, working through sound problems, tech problems, all sorts of problems. So, let's get into it. It's going to be a tutorial on how to use the board mechanics, how to use all of the different tools and toys on the board, not covering how to play the game in here. And we're going to cover everything, so if you know how something already works, just be patient. I'll get to the things that you don't know. So we got our character sheets we're going to cover, we got our settlement sheets, settlement board, the innovation graveyard board, gear warehouse, new settlement locations, the big black box, the new big black box, the showdowns, all that sorts of stuff, the card cloners, everything. So I'm going to go into it. Now I'm going to speak kind of fast because every time I record these, it always turns out to be like 35, 45 minutes. So I know I hate watching videos that long. But let's dive into it. Alright, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at our character sheets here. These are character sheets with the scripting built in to help speed up things for you in KDM. And the best thing is, it's got toggles, everything clicks around, makes it super easy. You can click on things like this, give them a mark. We got rid of those little X's, made them little black squares now, much easier to see. We also have the ability to name your character sheets, and how you do, anytime you see this little edit up here, like there's an edit button there, there's an edit button there, there's an edit button up in the survivor, or I'm sorry, the settlement. You click the edit, a little black skittle pops out. You right click on that. I gotta turn on my things for you to see, so you right click on that, and you go down, and where it says unnamed survivor, just go ahead and take all that out. We're gonna pop the good old Nognoth in there. Go out here, click edit. Boom. Bit bam boom. Done. Another thing neat is, say you got this guy here, he's rude and tough, rough and tumble, and he needs to sit out a hunt. But you want to be able to reference him later, like figure out who he is, when you got a bunch of these little guys like this sitting around. So I have your way to minimize sheets, and it captures all the top relevant information, so you should be able to suss out quickly who's got your, who's your oldest, which weapon proficiencies they got, male, female. And then when I do my boards, I always have these guys living up here. So even if I have 15, 20, 30 things, I have rows of them up here, so I can quickly look through them. I don't put them in bags, because I need to quickly reference my names sometimes. But these guys are also bags. So say you got yourself some, say this is a fighting art or a disorder or something, and you got a whole row of stuff here because this guy's long in the tooth. He's been around. He knows. He's seen some shit. Well, these little guys, these character sheets, when they're minimized, are bags. So you just take any cards that need to travel with him and just do that, and it lives inside. Fully searchable. It'll have them all categorized and everything like that. When you need to pull them out, you just pull it out, just like a deck. So that is going to make swapping characters in and out so much faster. And the original reason why we did all the scripting and stuff, we start with character sheets because swapping characters out, which you do a lot in KDM, gets really annoying. All right, so old Nognoth there had to go take a nap. So we pull out a new survivor. This is the infinity, the infinity bag that gives you all your new survivors. Just drag and drop. There you go. That easy. Ready to go. Another good way to use this is when you are further along in your game and you have new survivors that are born with +1 understanding, or they got +1 strength, maybe some evasion, luck, all sorts of stuff. Maybe they're born nuts. What you do is you take like a default sheet like this, so this is what all new survivors from here on out should look like, justified by the events or whatever happened. So you go up to here, hit reset on the infinity bag, and you pop that on there just like so. You just gotta find it there. There's the sweet spot. All right, and then I reprogram the bag like that. So everything I pull out is gonna be the same thing. So this is a really good way for you to, when something needs to happen to all these new survivors beyond a certain point, you just come in here and reset what that template looks like. All right. Another thing is on this space right here, tokens. Tokens will affect your character, and sometimes it's hard to keep track of what's a permanent stat bonus, what's a temporary stat bonus, all those sorts of things. So if I get a strength bonus from any gear or armor, so say I got the full cat lion set, and I got some extra strength, I got some extra speed, I take the appropriate tokens, I put them down on this section. So I have it divided into 2 different sections. Put it down here, but you see that number change there? Pick it up, drop it. So it automatically senses, updates the board. Also, if you pick it, flip it over, takes it away. He had a permanent stat there, which is why that's went to 0. So this is a really good way of keeping track of what's going on here, how it influences your character sheet. Also a good rule of thumb is to change the name. You can right click on these and go down here and change the name to reflect where this came from. So I would change this to like full cat lion bonus or something like that, the elixir, things like that. Now up here is meant for showdowns. Things during hunter showdowns that affect you temporarily that are going to fall off your character. But when you're all done, said and done, you can get rid of everything up here and not have to completely try to reorganize, recalculate all the things that are being changed. All right. Yeah. And if you ever set down a sheet on here and it doesn't recognize those things, just pick up the sheet real quick and give it a little flick. It should recognize it. You can also stack these. Control C. There we go. Stack up here, so you can keep all your tokens together, or you can, separate them out and they'll still do the same thing. Oh, they're duplicating themselves. Okay, so once they're stacked, don't do that. Otherwise, it reads it as you're multiplying at that point. You're not adding. All right. So that's how that is all intended. These are up here for recording your light and heavy hits and your armor, all the things down here on the gear grid. This guy over here is for newer players that need to remember, what you can do during your turn, your move, and your activation, survival actions, even though that's detailed here too. This is just an old fallback. And then you always want to keep it around for if you're doing fist and tooth. If you throw your stone, you always got something to fight with. So you're never completely unarmed. Unless you have no arms, then you are literally unarmed. And that's a terrible thing, but all too common. Another thing, character models. So got old Nagnath here. He had to take a step out, but maybe this new person is going to be female, and just this model doesn't capture that spirit. Well, there are 4 models that are living all right here in the same space. It's called having a stated device. And how you switch that out is I'm just hovering over this until it's highlighted and I hit 2, 3, 4. Oh, facing the wrong way. But that way I can kind of flip through and pick my model. So that should make it easier. They're all set like that too, so it makes it easier to swap them out, swap your little custom model out. Alright, down here is intended for, keeping track of all those cards, disorders, fighting arts, even resources you pick up during a fight. Good rule of thumb to keep down here. Just a great way to keep everything organized. It's all snapped, rotated. That's why this guy's flipping out. But yeah, KDM can get messy very, very quickly. So I try to keep everything neat and orderly in a way that makes sense. And the way that this is all laid out is, you play here, you come here, do all your stuff, and then come over here, back to here. So, try to make this little triangle, circle, whatever. Try to keep it a flow. All right. So moving on from character sheets, I think we've covered all the things there. We move up to the new books. All right. This is also a stated device. This black area with all the things on here. If I hover over and I hit 1, here's the core. All the core books, everything you need for core. So if you want somebody, if you're teaching them the game, you don't want them to spoil themselves on what can happen in the expansions, this is a great way to do that. Hit 2, and it opens up all those guys. The books are set up in ways we thought made the most sense. breakdown. So make sure you familiarize yourself with the different kinds of things, timeline events, or everything that happens on the settlement timeline, milestone, or things that happen on your character sheet or tick over in certain things. So your principles and things like that happen here. Hooded Knight, game over. Rules cover the basic rules, the prologue, the first story, everything you see here. And the neat thing about these books is, so say we go to the showdown here, is we try to have the art be the first thing you see on most of them. So I'm going to go to the white line. We got the white line art. These are straight from the book. And then to click over, I get to his actual showdown. So we try to do that on all of them, just kind of showcase the amazing art that comes with this game. But as you can see with hunt events, that saves so much time. You roll a 55, boom, click, there you go. Give it a read. It is a little small. I recognize that because of the scaling down it did on the table, but completely readable. I've been playing games no problem. You can either do your alt zoom, or I do this kind of zoom. I'm just used to this old style, so I get zip around on the board and read without having to get my bifocals. Alright, so that's the new books. Thank you so much, Eskinder, for doing all that. Thank you, Colonel, for helping me with scripting on this guy. And Eskinder for teaching me how to code, which took a lot of crayons, because I am just dumb when it comes to code. There's a reason why I'm the artist here, on the table. I do all the art, the pretty stuff, the fun stuff, and but they do the code, and I am eternally grateful to those guys. And then teaching me and having the patience, dear God, it wasn't easy. All right. Last thing about these books, though, so something to teach you about the mechanics is, say someone was reading the timeline events, right? And you're like, oh, but I need to go to severe injuries because I just stepped on something and my head exploded. Well, they can just take the book. And so you can go to severe injuries now. So each one of these spawns in. And now someone else goes, oh, I want to read what happens when your head explodes. Well, fine. You get a copy too. So you can take them off here. It'll generate copies infinitely. Just delete them when you're done. No harm done. So make sure you're spawning them in with these tabs up here. So if I go to severe injuries, go to head and arms, and I take this one off. And I come back here and click on head and arms. I'm not spawning any more books. I gotta spawn the book in itself, and then these are just the tabs that correspond to specific pages. Alright, moving up from books there. These sweet new little dice from Dev Disco or whatnot. I mess up his name every recording. I swear I've recorded this 7 times. Still mess up his name. It's in my credits forum. In the credit edit and description for the thanking everybody who helped out with my board, threw him in there definitely because these are, I thought, cool little additions. If you go to the workshop when you're in Tabletop Simulator and you look at all the other stuff out there, in the search terms, just type in KDM or Kingdom Death Monster. You'll find a bunch of cool little toys that people have been making for their own games and for the public. So this was one. I added the little ones on the forehead so that people know that this is the one space. The reason he did this was, we have a crit 10. We might as well have a crit, for a critical success, might as well have a critical fail art too. But the main thing was the 1-7 issue. So if you played the game for a while, you know that having the 1 and the 7, before this was a skull, when you were zoomed out, a lot of times you would mistake the roll. And it screwed with enough games that I didn't think to change it. But once I saw it, I was like, I recognized the importance. So I thought that was cool. Neat little art boost there. Alright, up to the settlement sheet. Let's get this guy off there. There we go. Alright, so this is set with the core timeline already in here. Little toggles, so you can set your triggers and all that. You got your core ones over here. Oh, make sure you pay attention to this. So if you're just playing core game, you come down here and you see not victorious against Nemesis, game over. What? That only corresponds if you're playing with the Sunstalker expansion. So only ones that have little lanterns here correspond to the lantern game. So just make sure you see that. These are spaces left open, if you have some custom stuff going on. But just something to pay attention to. You got your triggers there for, departing survival, population, survival limit. Editing name, of course, all that. Down here we got quarries, nemesis monsters, death count, lost settlement. I took what I thought was the most relevant information off the settlement sheets and made this out of there, just because a lot of the other stuff is extraneous. You didn't really need it, especially in a digital game. There are much easier ways of recording certain things. You know, in the real life world, when you're doing it on paper and you have the pencil and eraser and everything's right there, I can totally understand why they use their big settlement sheets, like 2 pages. But in here, this works a lot better, and it's going to make things go a lot smoother for you. All right. Sometimes things happen during your gameplay and things get added to the timeline. A Hooded Knight is the one I always use as an example. You know, something triggers and it says to add, 5 years from wherever you're at. So, we're in year 3. We've triggered the Hooded Knight. Well, I want to record that so I know when I get there I have to remember to do the Hooded Knight thing. So I'm going to right click in the black here. I got to turn that back on. All right. Whoop. Okay. Right click on the black, go to timeline events and change it to whatever I want it to say. So we got Hooded Knight. And, you spell it right. Keep it fancy. Keep it fancy. All right. Come out here. Click that, the white to update it. Click the black to move it around again. If I need to have a second event happen on that same year, got them sized up so that it will correspond to that year, not blank anything out. So that way you can keep track of multiple things happening. You can just edit the name and copy and paste as many as you need. Got that for the quarry. So when you got your White Lion Hunt and you got your Screaming Phoenix and all that stuff. Same with Nemesis. So it's just an easy way to keep track of information for you. All right. And we come to the settlement board. This is a piece I made for the game here because I needed a vertical board, honestly. And I also want to consolidate a lot of the spaces that happen on the typical gray one found in the real game. So I thought some of these spaces could just be consolidated to, make more room. So you got your survivors returning, gaining, endeavors, settlement events, update death count, timeline principles, innovate craft gear, and archive resources, survivors depart. Endeavors are all in here, this little infinite thing. And the reason I don't use the lantern tokens is just to keep it the game consistent with the design. I found it kind of odd when it would reference endeavors in any of this or the books, it would use this symbol, but then in the game they give you the one that has little lantern things that I used for counters. If your turn is gone, whatnot, then you can flip these over. That's what I use them for this game, but a lot of people use these as endeavor tokens. So to each their own. You can do whatever you need to, but this is the way that made the most sense to me. Alright. Neat little trick with the innovation deck. Big shout out to Nick for helping me with that and coming up with some innovative tags. So as you know, when you learn an innovation, and it goes up there, little innovation board, it unlocks the next tech tree for you. That's why this is here, to kind of illustrate, and so you can strategize what you want to build towards in your tech tree. So you need to add anything that you've learned. You need to add the corresponding unlocked cards to the innovation deck. And how you do that, to make it really simple, is you could do it search one by one. So you could search paint and symposium and inner lantern, drums, hovel, ammonia. But, well, gotta get that back on. Here's an easier way to do it. So we go to here to search, and I type in the consequence language. And what I mean by that is at the top of every one of these cards, and you can see it on the tech tree too, it says the consequence. Why did this get unlocked? As a consequence to this. You want to unlock bed? Well, it's a hovel consequence. So you need, as soon as you get hovel, it unlocks the bed. And it unlocks partnership. And is that right? Yeah, partnership and family. So you would go through and type hovel consequence in here, or just hovel. Once you've pulled hovel out, it won't find it, and it should find those 3 cards. So just like that, by typing in language, I was able to get the 6 necessary for the deck. Good to go. down here. Little ode to the past. But these are markers to kind of mark your tech tree if you so desire. This is how we used to mark everything in the game. So before we figured out the whole scripted clicky toggles, we dragged these little guys everywhere. So I was making snap points for all these things and driving myself nuts. But that's how we used to do it. And man, so glad we figured out not to do that anymore. But instead of making little toggles, I thought it was nice to kind of keep that in here. All right, moving on up. Moving on up. All right, innovation board. Already covered that. It's just a nice way to keep this all organized, snapped. You know, by the end of the game, you got quite a lot of them out here, especially if you have expansions. Next thing here is the death count. The graveyard is what I call it, and this is completely voluntary, not part of the original game, just something I made. Same with the innovation board. Just so if you play KDM in real life and you're like, what are these weird boards? I made a lot of these from scratch just to give you another tool to organize things. Because like I said, KDM gets very messy. Alright, so death count down here is, where you recorded on here. But I thought, this is just for me, from kind of a lore thing. This was kind of a cold way just to kind of tack off dead people there. I want to call them dead survivors, but that didn't make any sense. So, anyways, I made this graveyard give their death a little bit more gravity, a little bit more meaning. So, pull a skull out of here. It's an infinity bag, and if we come back here and turn that back on, we hover over it, we can see name of the fallen, description, how they die. So you would go in here and edit the name. If Nognoth died, we'll just kill Nognoth real quick. Oh God. And you want to type in a description. Stepped on a nail. There, his head exploded. That's right, his head exploded. It's a goddamn tragedy is what it is. So we can hover over it and just see Nognoth. Right? Okay, that's whose skull that is. If we long hover, we can get its story. Stepped on a nail, head exploded. It's tragic. Gives me shivers every time. Soon to be made a new movie, I'm sure. Based on real life events. But you can make a whole paragraph here. And this is an interesting way if you're really close to a character or they died in an epic fashion. Cool way to record that, add an additional lore. But I know from playing the game, sometimes you need to know how a person died, and sometimes you need to reference things on their character sheet. I'll try not to say any more spoilers beyond that. But so what I did was, instead of just marking down a little check mark there, you can take their character sheet, minimize, and drop it in the head, and that's a skull, or that's a bag. So anytime you see that little icon hovering over something, it's a bag, unless I've turned the tooltips off, because I like to confuse people. But that's why I make the tutorial videos, right? Right on. Alright, so that's how that guy works. Good news. Alright, I like it. Let's move up to Gear Warehouse. Gear Warehouse, again, another shout out I have to give to a guy named Potter Smash, who not only helped inspire this idea, but introduced me to KDM entirely. And we were playing, oh man, those old boards, rough, I tell you. And we didn't have any of the tools or toggles or anything. So happy we have the new tech with this game. But this was an idea. We used note cards back in the day. When you get a whole bunch of resources going on, we found it much easier just to kind of like have these little categories that you could quickly throw differing resources into. Helps keep track, so you're not looking through a whole stack of resources. You can quickly reference, okay, I got 3 bone over here, I got 2 organs. It helps you a lot faster when you're researching recipes and things like that for your builds. So that's why those exist. Alright, up here, these are the new settlement locations. They were originally not, they all were bags and lived inside of each other and it was cool, and a bagception, bags within bags, but I had some modeling problems once I scaled it down, so, because this board used to be like 4, almost 5 times larger, until I realized scale was a thing, and scaled it all down in this latest update, so that's why everything got a little rehash in the design too. But anyways, so these are just plain old cards now. Just F over them, and their gear lives all here. It's all tagged, so you can search by them or pull them out, flip them out, lay them out. I also took off the auto cloning. These were cloning before, but I found when I was doing a game that most people like to, take all these out and lay them out on the table, and it was just dinking away, cloning itself, so I took that out. But that's where all your gear lives. All the rare gear, for the majority, I'm going to say 99% of the rare gear is here. So if something references a rare item, search that deck by name. We'll give a little search here, and so you can see, we try to put it all in there. And that was just because it was much easier to do it this way, and rather than break it apart by expansion, give you one more thing you'd have to shuffle into decks. Yeah, there's a couple exceptions, but you'll find those when you get to pulling out the expansion content. We also have the starting weapons, and then we had that was made into a card, Fist and Tooth. Some people requested that. It does not take up a gear grid slot. So you can put it on your gear grid if you want, but just make sure once you're full, you can actually take this off and just put it to the side. If you don't want to use that big old sheet, there's down there now, and you just want to use that guy, you can do that, but just it does not take up a gear grid. So that's just something next we threw in there. All right. Yeah. Also, you'll notice when on these new cards that the art pops a lot more. Thank you so much, Maximo. 1984, taking that task on. Dear God, what a Herculean task. If you know anything about modding, and you just see how many decks are in this game, there's like 800 cards or something like that. It just is ridiculous. And not only scanning it in, but reorganizing it on the back end, importing it into a way that's memory efficient, something I did not do myself. I completely hosed that job because I didn't understand how it was doing. Didn't understand the harm of importing a deck of one card, I learned that now. I know now better, but once I was all said and done, I was like, oh dear God, I'd have to go back. So Maximo 1984 took on that task, did a beautiful job with it. The cards just look amazing. You got some great high-res scans. Everything's a lot legible now and runs really smooth. So cannot thank him enough. He also gave us all the expansion books too that Eskinder built into his machine. And a quick little stop shout out here to both Eskinder and Maximo 1984. Check them out in the workshop. Search for their KDM games because they're completely different than mine, and I love that. I encourage anybody to try to make their own board. You'll get an appreciation of it. It's a ton of work, but there's a good reward that comes from finally being done, and it flows and it works. So if you want a totally different feel, check out Eskinder's Achromatic Edition. You got all the new toys and all that stuff's in there too, and then Maximo's Stylized Edition. Just some beautiful art and different design choices in the way it flows. So if something just sticks in your craw with my game, hey, total no offense, I get it. Hit them up, see if you dig them. So yeah, shout out there to those guys for taking that task on. Building boards from scratch is just a pain sometimes. This is my 8th board. And only 3 have been published. The rest I never published because I was just learning, I published my first board I ever did as a April Fool's joke. So if anybody grabbed that while it was replaced this board for April Fool's, then yeah, you got a piece of Nog history there. It's a horrible board. It's terrible. Yeah, it's just the worst. But I learned. Sorry, moving on. A little distraction there. Alright, so we covered over here. We got all that good and golden. You got all your armor set and weapon specializations there. Before we get into the big black box, I'm going to finish with the auto-cloning on this side. Alright, auto-cloning's the newest toy we got. Thank you from Eskinder again. This is built to preserve proper deck dilution. So you don't have to worry, did I copy and paste that card? Is that one safe to delete? Is this going to screw it up? You know, it just all these sort of things that happen in a game. So you you did a crit or something, a white line. It says draw a basic resource. Well, draw it. There you go. So what this does is this makes a copy and puts it down here and keeps it out. Doesn't shuffle it back in, because during the fight you crit a couple more times, maybe get some more basic resources. You want to preserve proper deck dilution. You don't want to be able to draw some of these things again, because maybe some of the stuff you drew was pretty rare, like that monster organ. Wait, that one's not pretty rare, but love juice is. So if you shuffled this in and kept drawing it and shuffling back in, you would have the chance of maybe drawing just nothing but love juice, and that would really suck. So, like in the real game, you record it and kind of keep it off to the side, and at the end of the settlement phase, you shuffle everything back in. So we built that into here as well. The other nice thing is if you pull it, if it's in your hand and it's not in these two decks, it's completely safe to delete. And you don't have to worry about screwing up the cards and what's missing at all. So make sure that you teach people, after I'm done explaining this, if you got someone new you're teaching KDM, teach them the proper mechanics of the board, because I've seen people draw a card, because we're used to popping it down here, or they put it back in here. That can start to really screw up the auto-cloning. So just, make sure you get into that habit of, off to the side. You can shuffle them back in when you're done just by clicking the black button. So it lays it in there and shuffles itself. The difference between the black and the white is these will auto shuffle themselves, because these are all resources and things like that. These are all pertaining to your character. Two of these decks are custom. We got the injury deck, severe injury deck, and the abilities deck. These don't exist in real KDM. These are made, again, to embrace the digital environment, where it gets kind of a pain in the ass to mark down every little thing that happened to your character, and to try to remember some of the specialties, like what happens when you become a matchmaker or a tinker, what happens when you become a savior. So these cards are all things that detail that, and there's just a ton of them in there, so enjoy looking through there, but they're just meant to aid in keeping track of your characters. Same with sphere injuries. So anyways, these don't matter having proper deck dilution. Because if you have 3 people that just triggered fighting arts and they all have to gain fighting arts, they need to have the chance to maybe get the same fighting art. Because again, in the real game, you would pull a card, you would record it on your character sheet, and you return the card to the deck. You wouldn't wait till the end of the showdown to shuffle those back in or whatever. So we built that in, draw a card, and it auto shuffles itself in. And I really auto shuffles there. So just give it a little time, And so that way you're just truly randomizing it, but also giving the opportunity of maybe having matched powers. Now, you don't like that feature? There, it's off. Quick as that. Same thing with those. You want to turn these in auto shufflers for whatever reason, just flip them to white. So you flip the token, it does the thing. It doesn't do it automatically once it's already out, so shuffle that back in. Wait, flip. Save to delete. Alright, this has made a ton of difference already. I'm playing a game right now with a friend, a couple friends, and walking them through it, and this has made it so much easier keeping track of the copy pasters. All the tokens live down here. They're all infinite, so have fun with those guys. I got the new dice down there too. Alright, tokens don't work with monster board, because the way I use monster board, they may in the future, but honestly, when I'm playing, it's just easier to keep track of, alright, he's got so much toughness and whatnot. He gets a minus accuracy token, I just do that. And I don't know if just because that's the way my brain works or whatnot, but to me, this just flows a lot quicker. So the tokens have no effect whatsoever on those guys. And there's a couple, like, that I will remind myself, so maybe he's got a +1 damage from being enraged, so maybe I'll write enraged and I'll pop that there, something. Not always, but yeah, little tweak there. All right, So we're going to cover the big black box, and then we're going to end up with here, and we'll be done. So just a little bit more. Hang in there. All right, the big black box. So these two pieces used to be a big black box, used to live underneath the table. It's where all the scripting world lived. They still do in a way. I mean, this is where the scripting world all lives, so be very careful here. But we try to make it a lot safer for you as well. So I'm going to go through this amazing box designed by Eskinder, built by him, and kind of give you an overview of what's safe, what's not. This decoration, don't touch. If you hover over it, you'll see script container. So imagine red flashing lights, caution tape. Don't screw with that. The manuals and things like that live in there. Just leave them alone. Leave them in there. Because it's just one of those things that, you touch it, it can start to break more and more and more. These are all just extra models, things like that, for looks. The terrain tiles. Most of the terrains we will take out automatically for you. The scripting will take out, automatically for you. There's a couple. I like to show this off. The solar flare tracker, the fairy ring that live in here that you have to draw out manually. If you ever have to draw something out manually, you'll see it pop up in the chat, in the global chat over here. It'll say could not generate or could not automatically select. Make sure you manually place the terrain. So pay attention to that over there. So that will give you a heads up when you're doing stuff. And just to give you a little FYI, that's mostly on the expansions that happens. It does not happen on the core because all their stuff auto draws out. All right. The other thing is these wonderful little things. So these are actually all separate bags. Right click on one. And this is where all their relevant stuff lives. So if we take a look at the white lion, got all this stuff in there. This, don't worry about it, leave it there. You never want to take anything out of here unless it's a bag. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. All the core, they're all scripted, and they don't have anything extra to place in here. But if Gorm, let's look at the Gorm. He's got some extra stuff. We got all this stuff that'll come out normally, but we want to do that. The bag. Lion God, don't want to touch anything but the bag. And they all say, like, the expansion edition, so add to base game commandos. This is the stuff we couldn't script. Alright, so this is the stuff you draw the bag out and you manually add these pieces. The gear, the settlement locations, the disorders, innovations, settlement events, all those sorts of little extra things. They all live in there, you just manually add them in. Alright, so with these things, again, just touch the bags in there. The rest are all part of the scripting and get drawn out of here when the scripting occurs. Okay, the big black box here. This contains all the amiibo triggers. So the red box is gone. The red-based amiibos are all gone. They all live up in here. The way you tell the difference is these all have their title beforehand, Nemesis or Quarry. So we're going to look at the white lion and use him as our trigger example. But if we come into white lion here, you see how that just says white lion. This is Quarry White Lion. So that'll give you a little warning if you ever see one that has the title. That's the trigger one. That's the one that triggers all the auto stuff. Other things that live in here. Green Knight, Eskinder's character sheets if you prefer his to mine. No judgment there whatsoever. They're great and they have different information than mine include. So there you go. Check those out. Promo gear, some of the extra, jack-o'-lanterns and stuff like that live in here. 1.5, the cards that we know of included here. I'm not going to add any 1.5 content to the workshop game until 1.5 is out. So these are here for your enjoyment. If you want to add them in, it's up to you. Alternate bags, we got fan-made expansion at settlement events, more trophies, more characters models. These are very interesting. I like to show these off. These are settlement cards that you add to your game. You're just your core game. If you're like me and you're never sure what settlement to play, well, you can, and I'll even tell you, you can grab these cards here, shuffle them into your settlement. You can either shuffle them all or just one. And so if you happen to pull that settlement event, well, stop the game, add in all the expansions for that particular one. Looks like we're going to be playing with a Flower Knight. So, very cool thing. These are fan-made. Got them from Board Game Geek. So that really cool, awesome idea to randomize and help you out with making it a truly enjoyable and terrifying experience, like how KDM is. All right, I'm going to add that back in here. These are only separated just because, you know, start off, we got the core, we got the expansions and stuff. You know, if it gets messy, it's not going to make a difference to anything. So that's just why it looks like this in the beginning. All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty fun stuff. As you know, we love our scripting. Oh, glad this is up. Give me a chance to talk about it. All right, back behind here, a little button. It says Show Admin Console. Part of the little magic behind the scenes there. Alright, so there are things in here. You can turn the auto triggers I'm about to show off. You can turn the auto hunt, the auto showdown off. Some future building there that we're experimenting with. Deck refresh if you want to have it stop doing that. Reset script variables. If the game breaks on you, that'll walk through what you need to do. So if you come to a scripting error, open up the thing, hit reset script variables, read what happens in the chat, and follow that to a T. So make sure you follow it to a T, and that should help you out. Dev mode, leave this off. Once you turn it on, the invisible things that help our triggers become selectable. So we wrote them so they're not selectable, they're not viewable. There are cards right here that you can't see because the dev mode is off. So this will help you protect patrols or people, you know, that just they're good intention, but they don't have any idea if these were visible, they might accidentally delete them, and there goes the script. So I'm going to show you. Dev mode on. Now look at that. Things are appearing. So I select them. So these are placeholders. They tell the cards where to land, things like that. There's stuff like that all over the board. So keep them invisible. I'm selecting them because I know they're there, and I hit F to make them visible. And then turn dev mode back off. Alright, you've been warned. You've been warned. Alright, so we come up here to the hunt. And the triggers here, so starting the hunt pad, this goes much quicker now. Again, thanks to script rewrites from Eskinder, but also from improvements from Tabletop Simulator. They're great coding. So it just is super snappy. Bam. Ba-doop-ba-doop-boom, boom. I love it. Alright, so this generates everything truly randomized, so you don't have to worry that it's not pulling out specific cards for the white lion. It's truly randomizing from its hunt deck. Brings out the white lion resource deck because, you know, sometimes you need to access that during the hunt. Terrain cards live down here if you're ever looking for them. They're right there. But you can just leave that because those also will auto disperse. Anyway, white lion here. If you want to select his level 1, 2, or 3, moves him around to his corresponding spot on the hunt board. Something, you know, neat, fun, good for you. Alright, I also fixed these to be a little bit more centered in the latest update. It's kind of driving me nuts. But, yeah, so you do your hunt, and then you get to the lion. Just take your characters off and put them wherever, or you can just leave them up here. It's fine. Just make sure, good rule of thumb also, there are cards up here. There are cards that live here. Down here is safe. Down here is safe. If you have stuff up here when they spawn in, it could cause you scripting errors. So just be careful of these areas. Below the resource card, good and clear. Down here, good and clear. All right. So to move from the hunt to the showdown, clean up the hunt, we just pick up the white lion. Look at that. Decks rebuild themselves, even says that in the chat there. So we got little messages that pop up. And Eskinder included, if you keep it, look at the chat, the survivors have chosen their quarry, white lion appears. So he's got a little bit of lore built in the chat, which is adorable. All right, triggering the showdown, dropping the white lion. Look at that. All that stuff just went on and happened right in your face. Oh yeah. All right, so white lion jumped off there again, so you don't have to manually move it. It brought out your basic deck, your advanced, special, legendary. This is just face up. This is from I couldn't tell you honestly what it's face up, but all the special ones appear face up. It doesn't mean they're in play and whatnot, so I will try to do an update where they are flipped over. But right now, I think almost all the critters specials flip open. Anyway, so these are all here ready. Makes it super easy to build your decks. I need 7 basic. There. Oh god. 5, 6, 7. 3 from the advanced. Bip bam bow. Ready to go. Alright. We got it also with the wound stack down here, so if you deal a wound, bam, you just set them down there. It's the one with the red ring. Discard over here. Again, trying to minimize as much movement as I could for you guys. So hit location spawn in, gives themselves a shuffle, and then terrain spawns in. And these are neat. So it pulls the required amount of terrain, but it also pulls the required random terrain. So this is the ones that appear with a white lion. He always appears with 2 tall grass and then 2 random terrain. So this is truly random. You can test it out, and makes it a lot easier for you. To get that terrain, just push the little plus. Pulls the appropriate number, and it's pulling them out of this area up here. It's making copies and pulling, so that's why you didn't see the number change. But that's why, just be careful when you're pulling stuff from out of there. That's where these guys are cloning themselves from. But anyways, so those guys spawn in, and because they're cloned in, they're completely deletable if I want to. If you, we all do this where something's selected and you go select something else and you delete it and you forgot you had the Orvane selected and you accidentally delete it, just hit the plus again. Again, kind of like the book generator, it'll generate infinite amounts the more that you keep pushing it. All right, so I think that's it on the showdown. Once you got all your fighting and you've done all your stuff, you want to clean up. We even fixed the before where you would have cards laying all over, and it wouldn't clean those up. It only cleaned the decks. Well, now it'll clean everything on there up. Look at that thing of beauty. I'm gonna drop him and set the showdown again to show you one more thing. Super quick. There we go. Randomizing that terrain. Okay, what I was going to show you is stand here in the monster board. So this level marker, I was showing you up here with the hunt. This one's tied to the showdown board, and just did a little quick refresh. Just pick it up, set it back down. Bam! There's a level 1 lion. Level 2, level 3. I know I'm scaring you by showing you how scary it gets. It's horrible, but very quick little way. When you first do it, when you first set down the showdown and whatnot, it'll still show all zeros, so you just need to refresh that over here. And that's set for all creatures as well. So there we go, trying to make your playability even easier. And yeah, so that covers the majority of the board. I know this video is going on a bit, and I apologize for that. We'll stop it soon. Hopefully the sound all worked out great. And I don't have to record this again. But yeah, big thanks to Esconder. Big thanks to Pow, Rogue, Maximo 84, and I gotta show you why. I forgot to show you why. I'm thinking Pow Rogue here. Pow Rogue is our model dude. So for those who haven't seen, we now have the Flower Knight, and we now have the Manhunter. And we have an updated version of the Lion God. Looks so much better than the old one. If you have the old one, compare the two night and day. So he's our guy who keeps bringing in these wonderful expansion models. We're not getting them from anywhere else, so love the fact that he does them. We got rid of the cardboard toggles and went with these standy things that include the picture of the critter, so it makes the playability, work even more. And these are all scripted for the auto setups. From what I showed you, you still have to do some of the manual stuff, but all the setting up the board, all these guys are triggered. Nemesis don't have hunts, so obviously they don't have hunt triggers. But yeah, again, just trying to make it easy. So yeah, big thanks out to Pow for that. He also does the paint jobs at home on the real ones, and then scans them in with his camera and takes a bunch of pictures and models the UV and does a bunch of work. So big props to him for that. Maximo84 for doing the books and the cards. Everybody else that helped out with the scripting. This was a huge community table. Cannot stress that enough. I know my name's on it, and but this is not my table. This was our table. A bunch of us came together. I put a call out, and we all just started working on it. Some fell away, some new joined in midway, and because of all of their efforts, our hard work, we got this going on. And so I cannot thank them enough. Everybody contributing, helping out, and giving their feedback, helping test, helping develop new tools and toys for us. I mean, this is such a fun table to play on, and I'm completely biased. I still will give shout out to Maximos and Escaders and everybody else's table out there too. I mean, Weirdo with a Beardo, he was helped setting it out. Zoomix, these guys were, pioneering, setting up stuff before I was building, and did some really, really cool stuff. Smiling Akathon did awesome stuff with his with some scripting, and an older version of this table. So I'm so happy to see that people are trying new things and trying to take their own spin on it. I cannot encourage it enough. I want to see all the different tables. I want to see different ideas that people are doing, because I'm gonna stop here soon. Stop making tables, just because it's reinventing the wheel every time, and sometimes we're successful, and there's been a couple missteps that I've taken along the way for sure. But I mean, this table it's wonderful to play on. It's so much fun. It makes it very, very easy. So unless something drastically changes, this will be my last table for sure. I'll still help out in the community and be definitely a part of helping other people develop their tables. If you're modding or want to know how we did things, feel free to ask. We're great. We love helping out. I try to be fairly consistent and energetic in the comment section. If I seem snarky, it just means I'm tired and had a long day. I was working on it, and if it didn't get fixed, then but I listen to feedback. I also I'm very hard on myself, so I know the things when I mess them up, like god, like this. It wasn't the latest update. Is oh god, and now it doesn't work, and now I hate myself. Oh my god, what's happening? Why does it only show this? Did I accidentally delete all my? I hate life. All right, never mind. I hate it. Something's going wrong with the bug, but weird. Anyways, so adding like snap points and all this, on the table. I didn't want to do it. I tried not doing it, but I knew I had to do it, so I made sure that we went and snapped all the table. So, yeah, try to make it the best we can. All right. Yeah, well, thank you guys for the support. Could not have done it without you guys. We're almost at like 14,000 downloads, which is insane. When we first started building this, I was like, if we get to 2,000, that'll be cool. And it's nuts. It's insanely nuts. And it's so much fun. So, thanks for listening to me babble. Thanks for listening to me ramble. If you hung out this long, wow, you're all right. Good job. I don't know if I need to applaud you or pity you, but probably both. But thanks so much, guys. See you around. If you ever have an open KDM game, shoot me an invite. I'm always happy to drop in and shoot the shit for a little bit. As you can tell, I like to talk a little bit, so that could happen. All right. Well, have a good night, everyone. Thanks so much.